everything you need to know about products and services that can improve your life. This is Experts on Call on CL 650.
Living just enough for the city.
And welcome back to the show. This is StrataLife on CL 650. We're talking about Strata, living in a Strata, and the experts are here to answer your questions. We have Drew Grout, Director of Strata Services from Key Pacific Property Management. Gordon Lai. Do we always put you at the end, Gordon? I think we should switch it around next time. It's all right. He's here from CMW Insurance, and our next batch of questions go to David Shepard, Director of CanStar Restorations. All right, our first question, it says, our Strata has some expensive emergency repairs in the last couple of years. We'd like to do what we can to prepare for future emergencies. What can owners do to prepare for a loss in their Strata unit?
It's funny, we always plan for these things, and it's great to plan, but when the emergency happens, everyone, of course, panics, and you forget all your planning. But for us, the biggest thing that we find is when we arrive, as often as not, the water is still running. Mm-hmm. So water is the new fire. It's much more common than fire is. So water losses is a lot of what we deal with, and we find that no one knows where their water shutoff is. For the most part, there's going to be one available to the individual homeowner or to the business. And if there's a single piece of planning that you can do in advance, it's to know where that is.
Now, some older units, now, Drew, you can jump in on this, don't have an individual shutoff in the unit. You have to go to a main. Is that common?
Sometimes there's three. There's in the unit, outside the unit, and for the block of units. Right. Or the whole site. So
should the owner know where the shutoff is, or should there be sort of like somebody on the council that is aware of where these things are?
Which sort of segues into the second point is having a list of emergency phone numbers, because even if there is an individual shutoff and the owner does, by whatever good chance or fortune, know where that is, they might not be home. This might be they left the dishwasher on and it runs, or the washing machine is overflowed and they're not there. So that causes a challenge. So yes, part two of that would be, where is the next one? And as Drew says, then there's probably yet a penultimate one that shuts everything off, which is the least desirable, but at least it stops the water from flowing.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, water is the new fire, and we've hosted this show and joked many times, it always comes back to water. It seems to be the biggest problem with stratas, water leaking from one unit to another, dishwashers, washing machines, bathtub overflows. Is that what you see more than anything?
Oh, yeah, far and away. And the fact that, again, when it was a single-family home and the bathtub would overflow or whatever, it goes down into your basement where you store your snow tires. And now it flows into someone else's unit, and so on and so on. Right.
And they tell two friends?
Yeah, that's right.
So even with fires, water becomes one of the main culprits.
Yeah. Okay. The next question is kind of, we're covering things off here. We recently had a broken water heater leaked into our unit. I felt helpless watching the water spread and waiting for the contractor to arrive. When a loss occurs, is there anything you can do to limit the damage? So that's kind of a follow-up on the first one.
Sure. Let's say we've got the water shut off, but it's continuing to drain out of the washing machine or dishwasher or whatever. Surprisingly, you can do quite a bit with towels and that kind of thing if you can mop them up. But there are other things you can do as well to prevent longer-term damage. If you have furniture that's, and these days a lot of it's particle board, so if it gets wet, forget it anyway. Yeah. But if the water is spreading towards your furniture and you have good quality furniture, you could just take tin foil or something to put it around the legs so it doesn't stain the carpet, or
Tupperware or something.
Whatever, yeah, exactly. Anything to lift it up.
Or leave it on there permanently. So if you're not home,
I want a new couch. I want a new carpet.
No, leave the tin foil Tupperware in there. So if
that's a good look. Yeah, I want to come to your house. Do you still have the plastic on your sofa and your lamps? That's like my grandma had that.
Good thing you're a broker and not a decorator.
All right. The next one says we recently, this is kind of an insurance one. Hey, Gordon, you get to jump in a little bit earlier here, which is nice. And it says, we recently woke up to find water pouring through our bathroom light from an upstairs unit. Restoration company got us cleaned up, but now we have to deal with insurance. What should I expect when I have a water claim? So this is kind of both. So how long typically does it take from the beginning of an incident to getting it mopped up and settled, typically?
Honestly, there's probably... we use as a rule of thumb, there's probably 30 days of work, but expect that it's going to take 60 or 90 because there's scheduling issues, there's a lot of people involved, things have to dry out. That takes a certain amount of time. We live, unfortunately, in a world where Mike Holmes is teaching us that you can do everything
it all in 30 minutes.
Yeah. But watch closely. The seasons are changing while Mike's working on the house.
Yes, that is true.
Yeah. Wasn't he wearing blue before?
Those are our TV secrets. Don't tell anybody. Okay, so on the insurance side, how quickly do you make a claim and how long does it take to settle? I mean, when the restoration company is in getting the work done, how is that paid for? Does the insurance company open up a claim right away typically?
Usually we would be notified and, the number one thing is you got the restoration in there. And then the next step usually we'll ask the quick question is like, does it look like it's going to go above the deductible? So there's an option. So some clients will say, it doesn't matter. I just feel more comfortable filing the claim and let the insurance company decide. But most of the time when we deal with Drew, other property managers say, you know what, you have an idea, ask the restoration company. If it seems like it's going to go over, we'll proceed with a claim. Because if it's below the deductible, then really there's no need to get an insurance company involved.
And what is the typical household deductible in a strata?
On a strata, minimum is like $5,000 for water damage. I would say on stratas that are either high rises are $10,000, and with stratas.
So if you have a major like your washing machine floods all over, you have to pay $5,000 before you get any insurance money typically?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
That's quite high.
What will happen too, though, if the homeowners did actually purchase their own insurance, that insurance will kick in first.
That's what I'm thinking.
To cover up to the deductible.
Right.
If it's below, they will cover that portion.
Right. Okay.
So if everything's lined up correctly, most homeowners actually do call their home insurance first and say, hey, look, this leak to occur. Some of my furnishings also damaged as well as the unit. And so, there's going to be a claim that proceeds. And then usually the property manager is notified. And then the property manager calls us and say, look, this has occurred. And,
If the claim's going to be over the strata deductible, Strata Corporation will pay the deductible. And then they'll assess it back usually to the owner if they're responsible. And if they got proper insurance, their insurer will reimburse the strata.
Deductible.
The worst case is that
go ahead.
it's below the deductible.
That's where the arguments start.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, this is another sort of dovetails into our next one. Our strata unit suffered some fire damage during a small fire. What happens now? What update should I expect? Who should they come from? So this is a big one. A lot of people aren't aware that if you don't have the right insurance, you are required to restore to what the builder put in initially, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so what happens there?
Well, then there's the interesting point when Gordon talks about the many tiers of insurance. So the strata may be involved in that with an adjuster and perhaps their own restoration company. The unit holder has certain tenant improvements, and they might have insurance involved and another a restoration company, conceivably. But also, when Drew was talking about rentals earlier, there could be a renter who may have insurance on their own contents. And then there's liability back and forth. So in terms of the updates, certainly when we show up, we always suggest invest $1.50 in a little notebook and keep track of who is who. Because if you're waiting for an update from one person, it may not be the person that is actually selecting or providing the carpet or whatever. It's very important to keep the players straight in one of these claims.
But what I've found from hosting the show is that if you don't have coverage for upgrades, the insurance company is only required to insure back to what the builder put in initially. So if it was carpet and you put in hardwood and there was a flood, then they're not going to put hardwood back, right?
Yes.
That's
correct. And you may or may not get the carpet back. Now, those gets a little complex because obviously sometimes these these floods or water damage are restricted to small areas. So if it's just, basic, say, tap water, the insurance company say, we would have paid to clean the carpet, dry it, clean it. But in the case of you got hardwood floors, all that, you can't replace that little section. So we're not going to put all carpet in because it would have only cost us $500 to get it cleaned up. So then it gets a little tricky. So unit owners got to be very careful if they don't buy their own insurance, not to expect that everything is still going to be fully covered on the strata side and say, well, at least I'll get carpet back.
So as an insurance person, what's your advice to somebody listening to StrataLife now and they renewing their insurance for the unit? What's the free advice? The
free advice is to make sure that you have proper limits. And if you upgraded the floors, make sure that there's adequate coverage for that. Ask your insurance broker or agent and just go through those things. And spend the 5-10 minutes.
Okay. We covered the next question. It says, how long does it typically take for work to be done? You covered that a moment ago. Right. I know you must have seen many people and how they handle disasters. How much personal property insurance should owners carry? So that's back to you, Gordon.
That's a great question. I haven't done personal insurance for a very long time, but I remember the days when I did. The biggest thing that I see, the biggest mistake is that most people undervalue their own personal content. The first question they ask usually, what is the minimum cost and what is the minimum amount? So say if it's $40,000 as a minimum replacement for your content, you will have a high percentage of people say, that's more than I really own. And they don't realize how much content costs that they've collected. Because mom, when they grew up, mom gave them the sofa, the bed. And so all they usually say to you, I got a TV and I got a mountain bike. That's value to me. But when we see the claims come in, back in the days, just CDs, it's like $1,000 for CDs.
Yeah, or just even buying pots and pans and linen and towels and all that stuff.
Clothing.
Yeah. And I just tell people, you know what, if the claim occurs, you're not going to be wait for the Boxing Day sales and stuff like that. And so basically you got to look at, if you walked into the Bay or wherever today and replaced everything, brand new.
A lot of money.
Well, and if I could also kick in here, the other portion of the insurance beyond the value of the contents is the cost of additional living expenses. So we are currently involved in a large claim, and the adjuster addressed the residents meeting with, you're going to be out for 2 years. So let's think about that great unit that you have that you think you could get $2,500 a month for if you rented it out. Now you're going to have to go replace that. You're going to have to pay $2,500 a month for 2 years. So you're going to have a very large bill, which in all likelihood exceeds the $40,000 that you bought for your entire unit.
That's the one thing my insurance broker has said to me. The one thing that people underestimate is the time they might need to spend out of the home.
Yes, out of the home. It's all these additional costs. Like, I've seen claims where cancer, not all the content's damaged. You got to remove it. So you got to store it. There's
dry it, clean the smoke. Clean it.
There's a list that, they go through each item to make sure that's packed. So you get the list. There's all these costs involved. So it's not like calling your buddy, come over for a beer and we'll pack this. It just doesn't work. It's got to be expedited, done right away. So these things cost. So I would say, most unit owner, if they don't have at least, $70,000 to $100,000, I would say that you're probably underinsured and you undervalue these basic things you have, like the clothes on your back versus that big screen TV.
Yeah.
When they do have insurance, though, in the case of additional living expenses, the homeowner's insurance is the first payer for that, right? Yes. And when they exhaust the benefit for that, that's when the strata insurance might kick in?
That's right.
And if they don't have insurance for that, the strata insurance may kick in.
Yes.
But if they don't have insurance at all, that insurance won't apply to the tenant. Yeah. But if the homeowner has their own home insurance, then I understand that the strata's insurance may provide some protection to the tenant. So it's really important, doubly important, to have your own home protection and not just rely on the strata's insurance.
Well, you kind of jumped the gun here. We've been doing all these insurance stuff. We have more insurance questions.
All right.
So you just warmed up.
We could talk all day.
All right. So we do have more conversation with Gordon Lai. He's the client executive and vice president of CMW Insurance. And we'll pick those up next on StrataLife on CIL 650.
This is Experts on Call on CIL 650.